Hi students, this is Suchadata teaching economics to class 11 and here I am with the third chapter of economics and the name of the chapter is Economic Reforms since 1991. The government of India came with a slew of reforms in 1991. So the question that arises in every student's mind is, why did the government feel the need of having economic reforms? What were those situations? Why was the need felt so? Now, you have read in the previous two chapters that the government of India followed a different economic policy from 1950 to 1990 and 1991 onwards. In fact, the period from 1950 to 1990 saw that there was a great emergence of the public sectors and the private sectors were given a back seat. The government of India felt that the Indian industrial sector, that is the production sector, needed a strong hold of the government. That is why it felt that it was not very nice to give all these in the hands of private entrepreneurs. Now, with so many public sectors, it did show some kind of improvement and development, but there were more negative aspects, and those were, there occurred in India an economic crisis, and it was because the public sectors were given much importance and slowly they became breeding grounds for corruption. And generally these units became sick units, but still it was not easy to shut them down. So a great lag on the part of the economic activities of the country. We also see that due to the absence of private entrepreneurs, there was no competition amongst the people who were in the production unit. Thus, it became a slow economy, an economy that lacked competition, an economy which had lot of corruption, an economy where there were only more of public enterprises. Thus, both the government as well as the consumers felt the need of new reforms. And the reforms which were made in 1991 are called as the new economic policy in the subject economics. Well, in this new economic policy, there are three basic components which we call as LPG, that is liberalization, privatization and globalization. So first of all, we will pick up the first component and that is liberalization. Now what is liberalization? Simple, as the word is suggesting, it means liberation, it means freedom, and it actually means in economics that freedom from the direct control of the government by the private entrepreneurs. That is, earlier the government had been following a policy of licensing, had been following strict policy towards the production norms, and other areas were now relaxed. And we are going to study in more detail about its first component, that is the reforms which were made under liberalization in the next clipping. We were talking of liberalization and under it we were talking of various reforms which the government of India made in 1991. The first reforms were in the field of industrial sector. In the industrial sector, the government of India first of all abolished the industrial licensing system. That is, earlier all the private entrepreneurs had to take a license but now they were free to open up their units without any such kind of licensing. The second reform was that now there was de-reservation of the production areas. Now this means in simple words that earlier some of the goods were reserved that they would be produced only by the small scale industries. That is, the large scale industries could not produce certain goods, but now it was free for anybody to produce any kind of goods that it wanted. The next reform was made was that now there was expansion in the production capacity. It was in this manner that earlier the government used to fix the production capacity of every industrial house, but now they were free to produce as much as they could. There was no restriction from the side of the government. The next is that the government gave freedom for the import of capital goods. Earlier, if a private entrepreneur wanted to upgrade his machinery, he would have to take permission from the government to import such a machinery. But now it was free, he can import any kind of machinery or any other such equipment as he requires. So these were the reforms which were made in the industrial sector, which definitely gave a boost to the production areas of the private entrepreneurs. The next reforms are in the financial sector. The financial sectors of India, that is the banks and the cooperatives, are all managed by the Reserve Bank of India. This Reserve Bank of India before 1991 acted as a regulator, the one who regulates, holds, but after 1991 it took the shape of facilitator, as of a helping hand. Earlier, the RBI used to decide the interest rate that had to be charged, but now it is left free to the commercial banks to decide any rate of interest that they would like to levy. Let me talk about the fiscal reforms now. In the fiscal reforms, lot of such reliefs have come to the people because earlier the tax structure was very complex, so most of the people used to try and evade or escape from it. But now the tax structure has been simplified, so most of the people like to give taxes. Besides, there is a uniform application of VAT everywhere, which gives a uniform price to most of the goods. The next reforms are the external reforms. Now, external reforms were necessary because there was a devaluation of Indian currency in 1991, giving a big jerk to the Indian government. And therefore, the earlier policy of just protecting the Indian domestication, that is Indian units which were producing, now there is a free flow. That is, there is a good trade, both export and import. And this free flow of trade, that is export and import, has given a great boost towards the valuation of Indian currency. So these are the reforms which have been made under liberalization, the first component of the new economic reforms, which were industrial sector reforms, financial sector reform, fiscal sector reform, and the external sector reform. We are dealing with the three components of the new economic policy, and we have already seen the first one, that is liberalization. Let's move on to the second one, that's privatization. Privatization in simple words means the process of involving the private sector in the ownership of the state-owned enterprises. Now, let me make it very, very simple for you all. It means both the government and the private entrepreneurs should join hands so that the privatization comes in the country. That is, it becomes an equal responsibility, shared responsibility of both the public and the private sector to see that there is good development in the country. Now, for bringing about such privatization in the country, there are two methods which can be followed. First is outright sale of the public enterprises to the private entrepreneur. The second can be withdrawal of the government ownership from the mixed enterprises. Mixed enterprises are which are owned jointly both by the government and the private individual. So, to bring about privatization in the country, the government has to make efforts to see that it slowly withdraws itself from the market area, from the production area. Now, liberalization, privatization, and the third is globalization. In fact, globalization is the biggest need of the present day because they say that the world in itself is a global village. Now, globalization means that you are trying to integrate the economy of the country with the economy of the world. So, this integration of your economy with the economy of the other countries in fact means globalization. And India has been really progressing in this field. Now, when this globalization comes, there are many factors which are seen, many changes which are seen in the market. And one such is of outsourcing. Outsourcing means hiring business. And this hiring business we generally see in the form of the BPOs that we have now at various countries. India has become a hub of BPOs for the simple reason that it has cheap labor to offer, and also there has been a tremendous growth in the IT sector of the country. So, outsourcing has helped the country in the development of its economy, and its relation is towards globalization. Now, WTO, the World Trade Organization, definitely plays a very big role in bringing about true globalization in the world. The World Trade Organization not only promotes free flow of trade, that is, no restrictions, no barriers on the import and export in any country, but it also promotes good, healthy competition amongst the various countries. Now, in the international market, it is seen that there is a great effect because WTO is giving a lot of boost towards the free flow of trade. Lot of bilateral and multilateral agreements are made so that there is no restrictions, there are no tariffs, there are no such barriers on the import and exports, so that the world in true sense becomes a global village. So, the three components that we have studied are called as LPG, that is liberalization, privatization and globalization. The new economic reforms which were made in 1991 and have been followed since then have shown a great impact in fact positive impact on the economy of the country. And some of the features that we are going to see of the positive impact of these economic reforms are, first of all, the Indian economy has become a vibrant economy. Earlier, we were a sick, underdeveloped and an economy which needed great encouragement and boost to come forward. But now, we are believed to be a vibrant economy. And the second one is that the positive impact of this is that it has given a great stimulant to the production activities of the various units. We have already seen that the government has now imposed no such barrier or ban on the production capacity of various units. Therefore, the production has increased by leaps and bounds. So, a vibrant economy with great production capacity definitely are great positive aspects of the new economic reforms. The third impact that we have seen is that now there is a check on the fiscal deficit of the country. It was seen during 1950 to 1990 that the fiscal deficit had become a threat to the Indian economy. Of course, not much has improved, but still there is improvement in this particular field too because of the new economic policy. The next one is that we have been able to check inflation because of the new economic policy. The next one is that consumer sovereignty is of course there. Now the consumer is free to choose from hundreds of brands which are available in the market, and it is thanks to globalization. That is again a component of the new economic reforms. The next one is that there is increase in the foreign exchange reserve of India. The free flow of trade, that is liberalization, has given an increase in the forex rate of India. Next is that there is a free flow of private foreign investors. Since there is no restriction, so not only the Indians but also the private entrepreneurs, those who are not Indians, that is of foreign origin, are coming to India to start their units here, which means not only giving employment but of course also a great push to the Indian economy. So, the LPG, as we call it, liberalization, privatization and of course the globalization has given a great positive impact to the economy of the country. But there are miles and miles to go before we sleep. Therefore, we still have to keep on making efforts, and economists are always thinking day and night whether we should just follow these new economic reforms which we have been made, or there is a room for more improvement. While this thought is always there, but still the positive impact is definitely seen in the Indian market. And that was all about your third chapter. Thank you.